Do you ever wish you could get a thoughtful, expert-led crash course in a subject you've always wanted to understand better without having to commit to a 600-page or $200 textbook? If so, then today's video just might be for you. Today, I'm diving into a very short introduction series published by Oxford University Press. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and today's episode is both a love letter and a bit of a reality check for one of my favorite nonfiction series. If you've ever seen these slim, very uniform paperbacks with striking minimalist covers, you might have wondered what they're all about. Well, I've read a fair number of them. Matter of fact, there's my personal collection of them. And I'm here to give you the full scoop and let you know why you'll be seeing more of them on this channel. The very short introductions, or sometimes VSI for short, is a long-running series from Oxford University Press designed to give very concise yet accessible overviews of specific topics, everything from quantum theory to the Vikings, or from happiness and anarchism to even something as mundane as teeth. And although most volumes are original to the VSI series, approximately 60 titles were adapted from earlier OUP publications, including several from the Past Master series, notably volumes 17 through 24, which incorporated material from the Oxford Illustrated History of Britain that came out in 1984, so about a decade before this series started. Each book is numbered on the spine in a sequence that roughly follows its publication order, and per Wikipedia, 2 titles have been withdrawn and replaced. Number 60, which was titled Shakespeare, was by Germaine Greer, but it has since been substituted with William Shakespeare by Stanley Wells, and number 116, Anarchism by Colin Board, was replaced by a new version by a different author, Alex Pritchard. Don't know why, but I'm sure there's some interesting story or some reason behind it. Each book is written by a subject matter expert, and most are under 200 pages. I think maybe the most I've seen is like 210 or 220. So there's the occasional one that gets just over, but by and large, they're usually under 200 pages, usually not much more than 100 pages, which makes them approachable for general readers. They're meant to be both balanced, but also they strive to be complete, at least in terms of being a quality overview that is giving you the best that some of the most involved people in this field can give you when it comes to each of these topics. And though the authors are often encouraged to include their own scholarly perspective or interpretation, there is still certainly an effort at trying to keep it balanced and, like I said, full or complete. And I'd say that the blend of academic rigor with the personal voice is part of what makes this series so compelling to me personally. I'd say that usually that format works quite well, although it doesn't mean that the quality can vary depending on the writer's style, as well as experience, or even what editorial direction the series was aiming for at the time. I have read a few that after I finished them, I thought I would have done that differently. I'm not an expert in the field, but I just did not feel like it was quite as well done as I had expected, or they just made some odd choices in my opinion. But that's just me. But by and large, I really enjoy these books, and I'd say that they generally hit the mark for me. And I think that they are absolutely fascinating introductions. I find them thoughtful, informative, and surprisingly engaging for being such short works. The series started in 1995, and as of May 2025, so 30 years later, there are already over 770 titles that have been published or announced. And yes, once upon a time, I had the dream of owning the entire series, but let's just say that that became financially and logistically untenable pretty quickly. I've still got, couple dozen up on my shelf, but I am not actively trying to get every new one. Over the years, I've read a fair number of them, some for classes I was taking, others for classes I was teaching, and quite a few just because the topic sounded really interesting to me. I have enjoyed a good deal of them. That said, the series does have its inconsistencies. Some books can feel really polished and nuanced and quite engaging, and others feel like they're trying to condense too much or don't quite live up to the promise of the series, or maybe in the end I just wasn't as interested in that subject as I thought I would be. Maybe it has nothing to do with the quality of the writing or the author. I just wasn't actually something that would interest me. But I still really respect the effort and the concept, so much so that I give them a fair amount of leeway. In fact, I even once tried to start a podcast with a friend where we would read and discuss each of these books, and we recorded a couple of episodes. We had big plans, like, mini podcast dreams. It just tended to fizzle out, but who knows, I might try it again someday. We'll find out. I think the idea still has some potential. One title that I've already reviewed here on this channel is The Crusades, a very solid entry in the series and a topic that overlaps with some of my academic background. And so if you're curious, you can check out that review. But the real reason I'm making this introduction video now is because of my other channel, History Unraveled with Dr. Duncan. That's where I post both long-form lecture-style videos that aim to make history both compelling and clear, and bite-sized history lessons, both of which are perfect if you're a student or a lifelong learner or just someone who loves great content. And so as I prep and research for those videos, I keep finding myself turning to the very short introduction series. Right now, for example, I'm juggling 3 of them as I put together my next big script. They've become one of my go-to resources, especially when I need a solid overview of a topic that's just outside my primary field, or even if it is something that I have studied a great deal about, it's still nice to get even a simple refresher on that course. It's, you know, kind of like getting a little mini seminar from someone who knows what they're talking about in a really valuable way, in my opinion. I am also consulting another resource, the Great Courses, which has long since been one of my favorite resources, which I will also be making a playlist and an introduction for that, and I'll link that in the description along with the playlist. And I think these 2 resources, the very short introduction and the Great Courses, complement each other well. One gives you, a quick but well-informed take on a topic, and the other gives you the extended lecture-style approach. Both are excellent resources for getting expert takes on their fields and in a very mass audience-friendly way. So what to expect going forward? When I review very short introduction books here, I'm going to do more than just say whether I like them. One of the things I've learned over time, especially with nonfiction, is that viewers want to know what's in the book. What topics does it cover? What argument does it make? And not just what surprised me or what didn't land with me. They really want to know some of the main arguments that are being made and maybe some of the more interesting stories. So yes, you'll still be getting my reactions, what I liked or didn't like about each book, of course, who I think the book is for and who the book is not for, whether I think that it's a good starting point or whether I think maybe you should look at a different introduction to this concept. But I'll also give you a solid summary of what the book actually says, at least I hope to. I have yet to really try to give more details when it comes to nonfiction books like this, but that is my goal. So these videos may start to get a little longer. We'll see. I always think I'm going to get longer, and then by the time I actually edit everything down, it doesn't actually tend to be all that much longer. But that is a real possibility looking forward, because I know people actually want to know more of what's in these books. If you follow me on Goodreads, then you have probably noticed already, well, if you don't follow me on Goodreads, please do that. Then you've probably already noticed a fair amount of these books have been put in my currently reading pile or have just recently been finished. And so you will start to see those ones populating this feed as well as I make videos about them. And I certainly hope that I have something valuable to say about the book itself, but also extract some of the information and share it on this channel as I use it to prepare for the videos on my other channel, which, again, yet another shout out to that channel. If any of that sounds interesting to you, please go check out History Unraveled with Dr. Duncan. For this series in particular, I can't promise that I'll review all 770 plus of the books, but I can promise that more will be coming and that they will be mixed with my usual content on literature, other books on history, and whatever else I happen to be reading. I do think that even if you start to see more of the stuff that will go into my research for my other channel, you should still certainly see stuff that is related to my normal feed. I'm still a huge fan of fantasy, still trying to read a fair amount of fantasy books. The Pulitzer Prize winners and finalists just came out, so I will be tackling those 19 books, and so I still will have a lot more in the feed that is not necessarily related to this series, but I do think that you'll start seeing more of this, and I hope that it's something that you guys find valuable. If you have any thoughts on this series, or you had some suggestions that you maybe wanted to make about a book to read, although like I said, these I already have my intentions of why I'm picking up more of these books in particular, but please let me know what you're thinking in the comments. I'd love to hear more about what people think about this series as a whole. I'd certainly like to get the conversation going about these books, but don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and until next time, keep those pages turning.